Hey everybody, this is your boy John, and on today's episode of Geeks from the Multiverse, we're going to be talking about God of War. Boy. So yes, we're going to be talking about that famous video game character and all the video games in itself, and also the different voice actors and all that little fun stuff. So stay tuned.
We're geeks from the multiverse. We've come to unite all geeks. Now it's time to get geeky and dive right in, 'cause we're geeks from the multiverse.
Anyways, I know Matt was giving me a weird look there. Hey everybody, this is your boy John. Yes, aka Captain Mustache, and with me as always is Matt, aka Mr. Grumpy Beard.
What's up, everybody?
So yes, today, like I've already said, we're going to be talking about boy. God of War. Yes, we're going to be talking about Kratos. And we're going to be talking about all those things about him. Because, man, I'll tell you, I know, Matt, I know you didn't really play a lot of God of War. Kind of like before, right? Because I know, you know, like, I mean, I would say a while back, especially when I had like the PS3 and stuff. When I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. So like the beginning games, man, like visually speaking, were very hard. It was a very hard game to like look around. Like it was not like what it is now. Like when you looked at that game for the first time, especially the original God of War, like the visual aspect of it, one, it was annoying, but two, it was just you really couldn't explore, or what I feel like you couldn't do.
Yeah, see, I was never a PlayStation guy until I got the 4. I was always an Xbox, so I have never played. But I don't know. I mean, I have played a little bit of God of War, but I never. I would say like I do know the story of God of War. Like I know enough.
Well, no, I mean
the information. I just I think this is like maybe the one topic where I haven't actually played like a lot of the games.
You know what? Now you know how I feel.
I mean, I've played the like bits and pieces of the original, like probably like maybe 60 to 70% of the original one.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
And I played a little bit of like the newer, like a little bit of the newer ones. But I'm not much of a person that would play. And I hate like putting it this way because like I don't want to say like I'm not like a smart person, but like I don't want to necessarily play games that involve puzzles. Like I'm just not like I don't want to like sit there and just like run around and like have to figure out a puzzle.
I mean, now some of those puzzles in the game are kind of straightforward. Now there are definitely some that are you kind of have to like. You're gonna have to sit there for a minute and really kind of get involved and understand what you're looking at, the symbols, things like that too. Because to me, like I also played like Uncharted, but Uncharted versus like God of War, that game was mostly, it was a lot of like action adventure. You are going around and it's more story driven, but like a lot of that game is puzzles. Like right. A lot of that game was puzzles. Like God of War, it gives you the balance of like, you are in a combat like situation, right? And you're fighting, enemies or whatever the case is. But the puzzles are like here and there. It's not like an overabundance. Like every I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes you're going to find a puzzle. No, like you're going to find it. Like it's going to be like every so often you're like, okay, damn, I got to now figure out what the hell am I doing here and how do I figure out this puzzle. Kind of a deal. But like,
yeah, it just, I think, not to get off topic too much here, but like, I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't like the Star Wars Jedi Survivor was because it was like, you had to like solve things before you could even advance. And it wasn't like you were standing in front of like a computer and you had to like, figure this thing out and you just figure it out. Like, it took you a couple seconds just to go, oh, you just put this thing here and no, it's like you had to run over here and then you had to run over there and then you had to go over there. And it's like, where the fuck am I supposed to go? And then like you go into the pause menu and there's nothing. You run around. Like I literally in that game, like I kid you not, like I ran around for like a half an hour and there just was nothing. to tell me what I was supposed to do, I had to go on YouTube to watch a video to watch somebody doing it for me. And I go, okay, now I know exactly what I need to do to solve the puzzle.
So here's another example real quick before we go on. Because imagine playing like your Super Nintendo or something like that, and then playing like a puzzle game like now, and then doing that and not having full access to what we have right now, especially on a phone. And you probably remember how frustrating it was to do certain things, and you couldn't figure it the fuck out, and you had to sit there.
Yeah, I probably would have. I mean, I know I would have rage quit. Yeah,
you probably would have, and because you didn't have a choice, because you were like, "Oh, how the fucking do I figure?" Well, I don't fucking know. I was gonna say like any one of those games, like you're like, I guess I don't know what to fucking do. I guess I'm just gonna either keep playing and spend hours and hours on end just to figure it out, or.
Well, I mean, if you're talking SNES, I probably would have had to just pause it and leave it running until it froze.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too.
And then when I go back, I go, fuck, the fucking thing froze. And then you go, but then you have to like start all over, and you're like, damn it, I have to start all over from like the beginning of that level because the thing fucking froze.
Well, then you could, because there was no, because again, trying to save a game, it wasn't really a thing.
Yeah. Until like the Super Nintendo, when you're like, what's that slot for? And then they started coming out with like the huge ass memory cards. You remember those? Yeah. And then you could slide in the little memory card, and you're like, oh my gosh, I could save a game on a memory card.
You're like, whoa, what is this?
And then I could take out the memory card and I could bring it to a friend's house. What the hell?
Play on it too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I remember, like I said before, a long time ago, I remember playing literally like a PlayStation where, you'd have those memory cards and you could, my brother had a red one, I had a blue one, my dad had a black one, and we'd all have like different games on it. But again, the memory size was so small.
I know.
You didn't have gigs upon gigs of games now. Like this was only like megabytes.
The files weren't that big.
They were like 5 to 10 megabytes, and that was like nothing. And but the memory card itself, I only think, if I'm not mistaken, it was only like maybe 500 or maybe a gig on that.
I don't even think it was a gig. I think.
Or it had to be. It wasn't. I don't know. Maybe it was like 750. It really wasn't that big.
No, it wasn't that big at all. But
it was just kind of like how you would play today's games. But anyways, I know we're going on.
Yeah, I mean, it literally didn't even save any of the game. I mean, it literally was just to save your save game. Like
yes, and that's
all it did.
And then because you didn't have to worry about like the game itself, like installing, because all you had to do was just plug it in, or you put it in.
And if you didn't have that memory card, guess what? You're starting the game over.
Yep. Every single time.
Yeah.
But anyways, no. So yes, before we get any further, yes. So we always keep mentioning this. We're going to keep mentioning again. Yes, check out the website. We have all of our stuff there. Again, we have our merch. We have all the, the links to our, different platforms of podcast, right? So we have the YouTube, the Spotify, all that fun stuff, right? Again, Matt's book, just if you want to check it out, you can always go on there and, read it if you'd like. If you don't, then you can just tell him he sucks. I don't know. You do you got to tell him something here, but, I'm joking.
Well, hopefully don't tell me I suck.
No, I'm joking.
I'll send you a message back.
His self-esteem it's very...
They don't call me Grumpy Beard for nothing.
Yeah, there you go. Then that's your point.
But yes, the main page, you can listen to our latest episode. It's right on the main page. And there is a separate page that has all of the different episodes that you can listen to right from the website.
Yes, and I'm pretty sure, like we said, I think before it used to do Apple Podcasts, but I don't know if it still does.
I think it's still Apple Podcasts, yeah. Okay.
But either way, you can always listen to it. Hell, YouTube's free. You want to go on there? We have it always on there, too.
It's on there, yep.
So, but yes, so now...
God of War.
God of War. So, yes, so it's crazy to me how they just did it a little bit ago. It's the 20th anniversary this year for God of War. It's crazy to me that it's been around for this long, but
2005.
Yeah, 2005. I mean, so God of War is basically an action, adventure hack and slash video game franchise, right? So, created by David Yaffe and developed by Sony Santa Monica Studio, very popular studio, especially nowadays. Debuted in 2005, he's already said. PS2. It's one of the most iconic franchises in PlayStation, I would say, as a whole. There's very few that have had the pedestal. Like this one's probably easily in the top 5 of like being like probably the more iconic of PlayStation wise. Like I know, you got like Ratchet and Clank and you got a few others that are kind of up there a little bit, but this one kind of like, It has it's there. Like you tell me you want to get rid of it, it's not going anywhere. It's staying right where it's at. Yes. So this game or this franchise, it does have 9 titles in total. It does have several collections as well as spin-offs. The spin-offs, though, this is where I didn't really get to play those games. It's a lot of like PSP.
There's some mobile, there's some mobile games. So they're not all like PlayStation. There's some mobile. There's some. I think the mobile ones are fairly newer, but there's some like, I think like, let me scroll down to find these. PSP mobile. There's a Facebook text adventure.
See, I didn't know that.
But a lot of them are like the PSP.
Yeah, I would say PSP, and it was a lot newer. I would say it's PC as well now. I mean, and eventually, my guess is that now, since I'm going to say this, and I know I'm actually wrong with one of the conversations Matt and I had in the past year. So a little bit ago, Microsoft is now teaming up with Steam and doing a few other things, and so I found out that no, they're not planning on getting rid of consoles, but what they are trying to do is, yes, they are trying to do like a portable kind of version of a console in a sense. And so one of the things is that if Microsoft is teaming up with Steam or Valve or whatever, our games, I shouldn't say our games, PlayStation will basically, there's going to be no point at some point to start saying, oh, we're going to have exclusives. Well, if you start doing it to Steam, Microsoft is part of Steam now, this and that. They're going to get you know what I mean? There's not going to be any exclusives anymore. Because down the road, it probably won't even be a thing. It'll be like, listen, this is what it is. Because like, you're going to get it, we're going to get it, vice versa. It's just a big fucking circle. And it's not going to go anywhere, right? So like at the end of the day, so at some point, with God of War, when people say, oh, I haven't played it. Well, it's kind of like me saying like, oh, I haven't really played a whole lot of Gears of War. Or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's a very exclusive to only Xbox.
I did love Gears. I did love me.
I liked Gears of War, but I'm just saying that, but again, it's strictly for Xbox. Like there was no.
Oh yeah, I know.
So that's what I mean. So like.
Yeah, that was like, for me, I do love Gears of War, but that was also like Left 4 Dead.
Oh yeah.
Like Left 4 Dead was it only had 2 games, but it was exclusively Xbox.
But
even that one's on Steam too. So right now it's on Steam and you can still play it and buy it. So
yeah, at some point that's what we should do.
If I had Steam, but
yeah, you got to get on it. Anyways, so yes, the Greek mythology era of God of War, which is basically the main portion of, I was going to say, of really today. So I will say this. So the guy, before I go any further, now I'm thinking about it. So I know you didn't have it in the notes here, but I did add his name. So Terrence C. Carson is the original God of War. Like he was the original voice of Kratos. For basically, he started it. And then in 2013, I'm pretty sure what happened was he was literally going into the studio one day and he was about to like try to record and do something. And they told him straight up that he was fired. And it was just like okay, see ya. We don't want you to do this anymore. And I'd be pissed. I'd be devastated. He did the role for 8 years. He started that game. He made it iconic. And then all of a sudden, bye.
Hey, that's what happens in showbiz.
No, but then again, we're talking 5 years later. That's when Christopher Judge. Yeah, sorry, that was Mike Judge, but no, it is Christopher Judge. No, like when they did the whole kind of
Mike Judge is the Beavis and Butthead.
I know. I that's why I had to stop and think about that for a second. But but him, he did it later on. So he was the Norse era, God of War. That was the difference here. But anyways, so yes, Terrence C. Carson, he was the one that started this. So when you actually play the beginning games, you'll see his voice. It's very different from Mike Judge. Or sorry, but damn it, the Christopher Judge. I keep saying Mike Judge. Yes. So Christopher Judge, you'll see he's very deep voiced. Terrence C. Carson is very. I'm not saying as deep, but it's kind of a little higher pitch in some ways. Not quite as deep, but anyways. So the original trilogy, right, it draws heavily from the Greek mythology, weaving gods, titans, monsters into violent, visceral narrative. The central character is Kratos. He's a Spartan warrior consumed by rage and vengeance after being tricked by Ares to kill. Yes, he killed his own family, which you find out in, I think it's either Ascension or something like that. You do basically, or maybe in the beginning game too. You kind of understand, like, it's kind of weird. Some of the games, like, they follow suit, but then, like, they had, like, a prequel and, like, the way later, and then they bring you back to where he was going at.
I mean, a lot of games do that, though.
I know. Yeah. It's weird how they did it. But anyways.
Yeah.
So, yes, over time, Kratos kills Ares. No shit. Because, Kratos is like, hey, you know what? Oh, you want to fucking trick me? Oh, don't worry. I'm going to kill your ass anyways. And what does he do? He doesn't just kill him. He annihilates. He makes sure that he understands.
Slaughters his ass, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but you find out later on that Kratos, he's a force to be reckoned with. I mean, it's sad, and especially when you play the newer stuff of God of War, they hear him all the way in Valhalla. Like, they know the stories of Kratos in the game. They're like, oh, God of War. Oh, that's you?
Oh.
But again, so when you listen to that and you hear it in the story of especially like God of War Valhalla, some people are like, oh, so you're Kratos. You're the God of War now. They hear all these stories because, like, you hear that they know all these stories from Greece. And this is what I'm saying. Like, so right. It's interesting how that's how much of a badass he is. He's literally heard in other lands now. So,
well, when you go into, Olympus and you just brutally rampage Olympian gods.
Well, literally,
I think he when you're, in Norse, the Norse gods are, you kind of take notice when there's somebody that just goes into Olympus and just lays waste to other gods.
Well, and that's the thing. So, like, with Kratos, because here's the thing we do learn eventually is that, yes, he is the demigod son of Zeus, which I actually I already said this to Matt. Like, Zeus has, in all of Greek mythology, has had many, many children.
What a bastard.
What a fucking bastard. But yeah, so he's just another lineage of him. As you see right here, it says, yep, as a demigod son of Zeus, and goes on to dismantle the Olympian pantheon in a brutal revenge saga. Yeah, but so, I mean, he kills, I mean, it's not just Zeus. I mean, that's way later on, but, like, we're talking Poseidon. We're talking, of course, Ares, Athena, Hera, Hermes. I mean, I can go down the list here.
Oh, yeah.
Athena, or I might have already said Athena. Hercules. Hercules was one of the people that you verse, and then he, I can't remember exactly what he does, but I'm pretty sure, like, I think he rips him in half. And I'm like, and that's a dude that you'd think that you couldn't do that to, but he did.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
So again, it's not just like a revenge saga. It's like he's making sure, like, they're gone for good. Like, they ain't no coming back.
Yeah, they ain't coming back.
They ain't coming back, boy. I tell you what. No, he makes sure that they don't come back, and especially like Athena, where I would say, like, in the story, Athena's kind of the one that I would say wouldn't say the most along with, but at least adheres to her advice. Like, at least, like, kind of that voice of reasoning in a sense.
So yeah, and now that era encompasses the God of War, which was 2005, God of War 2, which was 2007, God of War 3, which was in 2010.
Yep. And
then God of War Ascension,
yes,
which was in 2013, which was the prequel.
Yes, that was the one that I was thinking of. And I think some of those PSP games were in between those, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, there was Chains of Olympus, which was in 2008. Ghost of Sparta in 2010. Those two were PSP. There was one called Betrayal in 2007. That was a mobile game.
Okay.
And
I guess that what that.
I mean, in 2009 there was a God of War collection, but I mean, a lot of these other ones are collection, so I don't know if they really count. But.
Well, they don't really count. It's just more like saying, hey, because the 1, 2, and 3 were the important ones, and then of course the Ascension kind of like helped with the just understanding of Kratos in a sense. And
and I mean, I think maybe if you had a PSP or you played the mobile game, like those might have filled in. So maybe some of the gaps and helped. So
my understanding is that I know at least with I think Chains of Olympus that did help kind of fill in some of the gaps. I mean, I had a PSP. I didn't actually have this game because I'm pretty sure at that time, I don't think my parents would have allowed me to have that game at that time. But I do remember having a PSP, and I do remember having certain things. But that was unfortunately one of the games I didn't actually get to play. But like, I don't even think I really get to play really the God of War 2. I remember really more playing God of War 3 and kind of the first one. I think I maybe dabbled into, but I mean, what I did afterwards is I think later on I was just kind of like, let me just kind of learn about Kratos as a whole. And that's what I just sat there and just watched. It was probably like an hour-long video of like really Kratos and just kind of like understanding the whole story. But, moving forward to really, excuse me, the Norse mythology, this is where I think it kind of like jetted forth, like with the franchise itself. I'm not saying that the first 3 or 4 didn't do it justice. I think because when I talked about the camera angles and the visuals and the visually speaking, I thought for a PlayStation 2 game, and especially around that time, it was actually pretty well made. My issue was the camera angles when you were playing it.
And we'll get there.
Yes, I know. But anyways,
we'll talk about the camera angles.
Oh, we're going to talk about it. Yes. But like the God of War, now, so 2018 moving forward, this was really shifting towards the Norse mythology, kind of like, where we're at now. Yes, Kratos is a lot older. He's burdened by his past. He now raises his son Atreus in a strange new land. And then, the themes basically pivot from vengeance to fatherhood, redemption, and emotional growth. With Kratos learning to tame his rage and become a better man and God. Boy. Yeah, so we'll get to that one too. That'll be a little bit down the road here. But no, like in Norse, this one, I was actually genuinely surprised because like, we did mention this a while back, especially like during our, I think it was our Marvel episode, like we were talking about Thor. And one of the things I remember saying was like, Thor, if you look at it, like Norse mythology, he was never this, muscular, kind of dude. And like what you see in Marvel, like when you see him in Ragnarok, that's Thor. Like that's what Thor was supposed to be. Like he's like almost a giant, but he's a big boy. Like he ain't a guy you want to, screw around with. I mean, but he was always drunk. And that's the common kind of theme. But anyways, I know we'll talk about some other characters too, but it's just that like those games really kind of enveloped the whole, really what I would think Norse, culture would be, like that's because like these guys did it really well, but they also really, it was cool to see the different lands and, getting to explore them. And, it may not be a whole, world in some ways, but like, it was just like I said, it was cool. It was nice to see how they did it, in these games. But anyways, so I know these from 2018 there was God of War, which was the 2018. Yes,
and then God of War Ragnarok, which was 2022, and then this is where the Facebook text adventure, which was A Call from the Wilds, which I don't know. I mean, it was a Facebook thing, so I don't know too much about that one, but
I don't have any idea.
But that was the, I guess one of the spinoffs.
Now, this one was interesting because I did see there was potential, and this is where they've been talking about this for a while after they did Valhalla. So, yes, there's like sort of rumors / like ideologies of where they think they'd want to go next. So, like, yes, the Corey Barlog, I didn't realize that was his name. He's the director of God of War 2018. He's basically said in interviews that the God of War universe could explore other mythologies like Egyptian, Mayan, Celtic, or Japanese. I think personally where they could go probably more realistically I think they're going to probably go Egyptian.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because like some of the, doing some research when I put these notes together, some of the in-game clues, particularly in Ragnarok, when you visit Tyr's temple, there are symbols and murals from other mythologies. Like you do see Horus and Anubis, which are Egyptian, obviously. There are jade masks and serpents, which are Mesoamerican. There's Asian-style dragons and scrolls. So, in game, it does hint, I guess, at other, that there are other, gods and other, mythologies out there.
Well,
in the same universe.
That's why I was saying earlier that, when, the Norse, gods were hearing of Kratos in, Greece. Like I said, I knew that there would have been, other gods as well in this like universe. I'm just saying, I think that I think I heard a while back that they were kind of leaning towards more, I think, Egyptian. And I'm only saying this because I think, if you look at, kind of like the three major,
Egyptian would be easier to do.
Well, yes.
I think Egyptian obviously is probably more known than, maybe Mayan or I don't really know Celtic gods or.
Neither do I. I mean, maybe you could do the Asian. That would be interesting only because it would depend on where you're going to go with that. Like, because you're talking like, I don't know. You can.
Are you Hinduism? Are you strictly talking Japanese? Are you talking Chinese? Are you talking Korean? Because different cultures. Asian cultures have different. Different, and I don't know if you necessarily would call them gods or if they worship like serpents or dragons or.
They're definitely polytheistic. They're very few that are traditionally monotheistic. Again, Christianity, Muslim, like that kind of stuff. But like this stuff is mostly poly, and there's always going to be more than just having that one person. But I don't know. Like I said, I agree with you that yes, Egyptian would probably be the easiest. Plus, I think it would just be, if you think about like the top three mythologies that are probably the most well known, like Egyptian is in the top three, where the other two were already mentioned, like Norse and Greek. Those were all pretty much well covered. Now they could take a stab and try to do something else, but again, it would be hard, and I think it could be very difficult to tie that in together.
Yeah, it very well could.
But yeah, I do remember.
Not to say that seeing Kratos maybe fighting like different dragons and like huge things like that wouldn't be cool. But
technically in God of War in 2018, you see it's Jörgen Mander, I think is what his name is, but he's the giant. He's the world serpent. Basically, if you took. It almost he almost looks like if you took Kratos' head and like put it on a serpent's body. It was like very weird and creepy at the same time. They almost look similar. But what I'm saying is like granted, he doesn't verse that thing, but there are, especially in the beginning, like I want to say it was like God of War 3, you're versing like Kronos. You're versing basically one of the giant, like the actual Titans and things like that. So I'm not saying you can't, but it would depend. Like I said, it would just depend on which way they were going to go with that. But anyways,
yeah, I guess there's a shit ton of Celtic deities. Like
I didn't realize there was.
Oh yeah, I guess there's a ton.
Well, definitely definitely not ones that I would know off the top of my
head. No, they're definitely not. They're definitely not ones that I was looking at some of the names and I was like, yeah, they're definitely not like. You look at like Horus and Anubis, like and Ra, like like some of the main Egyptian, gods, but I'm looking at some of these names for Celtic gods and goddesses, and it's like I couldn't. You wouldn't even know. You don't know. You just don't know.
Right. So the real question is where do you think they could go next? Because again, while Ragnarok, was wrapped up in the Norse arc, it Atreus basically, he does his own thing and then literally sets off on his own quest to find, the remaining giants. And again, where Valhalla at the very end too, they actually created like a DLC level that you could play that is Valhalla, and you would go in and you're kind of doing your own thing as Kratos, but this is where so many things could happen, right? So like Loki, you could focus on, kind of the Loki adventure, see where he goes on his travels, or
if you're focusing, Egyptian, you could do, Egyptian and focus in all that. I don't know. You could certainly do. It really depends on what you want to do.
You could focus on Loki, focusing on that piece first, and then you could go with like Kratos, again now.
Are you going to do a game where you're splitting, are you going to do what they did with The Last of Us? Kind of treatment where you're splitting time between the gameplay.
So technically, they did that in Valhalla, where you do play as Kratos, and then you do play as Atreus. Sorry, I had to think about his name for a second, but yes, like you play as both of them at some points in the game. It kind of ties into like what each one of them are doing. Because like at some points Kratos is kind of doing his own thing and he's leaving Atreus behind, and then like. After a little while, Kratos comes home and then like you go play as Atreus, but like he's disobeying his father, So it could be like that too. Again, but like even with Last of Us, granted, we see Joel, he's doing his thing for a bit, and then, you go into, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry, off the top of my head. Is it
which one, Ellie or Abby?
Ellie. I was thinking of Ellie, the other main.
Yeah.
She. Especially in the second one, like she's a hell of a lot more grown up now, but most of the game is based off of her now because Joel's kind of, I'm not saying too old, but like, he's just getting to the point where he can't do as what he was doing before, so like Ellie's kind of taking over that role a little bit, but then if you haven't played the game, I'm sorry, but guess what? Spoiler alert. Yes, Joel dies. Okay. He dies because some bastard killed him. But anyways, and that's what Ellie does. Yeah. Ellie gets revenge. Kills those sons of bitches. Again, play the game. You'll find out. It's just sad. But anyways.
But yeah, I don't know. I possibly, if you're talking, maybe because in the other games you've kind of played them and they were together.
Well, yes,
right?
yes.
Now possibly, in this game you would maybe play them and they're separate. You know what I mean? And now, maybe now they're going a separate journey, much like, if you've played, The Last of Us, like Ellie and Joel were kind of going a separate journey where they really didn't like each other for a little bit. But
yeah, it's true.
But I think you probably could see that, where Kratos is still going after what he's going after, and, Atreus is still doing, is going on a new journey, doing something that he's doing, and maybe their paths collided. So I don't know.
It could be. Kratos, now that, I guess if you want to say it, he's now he's in basically in two different lands that he's known as the God of War in two spots, technically, because he kind of takes over the role for Tyr, which, well, again, if you haven't played the game, sorry, guess what? I don't care at this point. You find out that Tyr is actually not Tyr. It's actually Odin as Tyr. And then at some point, you do actually get to find out that Tyr is actually locked up. And you do really meet the actual Tyr, who is the God of War in technically Norse mythology. But it's interesting because, like, and then Valhalla, you get to play a little bit of it.
Wouldn't it be almost interesting?
Oh, here we go.
And I just pitched this.
Okay, you just pitched it. Okay. Just your idea.
Obviously, I'm not the creator of God of War, but
clearly not.
I would just say, wouldn't it be interesting if Kratos ends up becoming a villain?
Oh, here we go.
And Atreus actually is goes into that role that Kratos originally stepped into as the God of War.
So here's So, I mean, then you're talking about a completely different, I guess, narrative for Loki, right? Because now, if we're talking about...
But you're talking like he's Loki, the god of mischief, which Atreus is not like a mischievous, like...
No, but he does...
Not the same type of...
No, I know what you mean. I mean, this is where it would... Who knows? Or, really? I'm going to twist it on you. Let's say Atreus does do that, but then he actually really does become Loki, like the true mischief, and actually he's the villain. And Kratos has to decide. See, I can throw that back on you. Who knows? I mean, it could depend.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's not Kratos, God of War. The game is just God of War.
No,
even though like we've come to love the character of Kratos, but I think maybe there is a chance that he could be redeemed. Obviously,
oh yeah,
we do love him as a character, and obviously he is Atreus' father. But I'm just saying, like, he's now demolished the gods that were in Olympus. He's now pretty much taken.
Well, like he didn't technically kill certain gods. He only killed there was only a few gods that he killed. I mean, he killed Balder. He tried to attempt to kill Thor. I mean, he was pretty damn close, but he didn't actually kill him. It was, I mean, he killed Odin. He killed,
I mean, the point is he
killed quite a few, yes.
He killed quite a few, and he is now like the Norse god of war.
I mean, well, hold on. Tyr is technically still it. Like, he is still a god. He is still that. But I think he relinquishes that role and kind of gives it to, Kratos at this point.
My point is,
I'm just saying
that we now have two different mythologies that Kratos has now stepped into, that he has just had his will, like his brutal just will with. And now if you're talking that they step into Egyptian, right? Like now he had just, I just feel like it's almost like the Punisher. Like you look at that character, like Frank Castle is not a character that's just going to all of a sudden be like, yeah, guys, I'm just done.
No, but so what's funny about, I would say Kratos in the really the God of War 2018 and on, is that he found a life with Freyr. I believe it was Freyr or Freya. No, Freyr. I want to say that's her name. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, not the point here. But the mother of Atreus / Loki, right? So he settles down. He does all this. And he doesn't actually pick a fight. That's the problem. He doesn't pick a fight with these gods. Balder has a problem with him. And that's what kind of starts this. But he doesn't know who the hell he is. And he starts picking a fight with Kratos. And Kratos is actually trying to defend him and his son. And then, later on, he decides that he's, okay, you need to knock it off kind of a deal, but then they won't stop. So he has to keep running. So then, eventually at the end of the first game, yes, he kills Balder, which then, that's how he pisses off literally the entire Norse gods. So there's Aesir, and then the Vanir. Those are the two separate gods. So those, the Aesir are the higher ups, and the Vanir are kind of like the lower tier, whatever you want to call them. But again, I know I'm just saying all this, but it's just that's what I'm saying. He doesn't pick a fight with them. So it depends on, like I said.
Well, he may not pick a fight with them.
No, but I mean, in Egyptian, though, I'm just saying this. In Egyptian, he may or may not. I mean, he could just be like, listen, man, I've already done this twice now. I don't want to fuck around anymore. You know what I mean?
But still do the same thing, and they could still write that narrative of
like we're going to beat you up.
He's going in separate ways, and these guys could be like, look, we're not going to just like let this guy
take over us in a sense.
Just like, do his thing. Like, we're going to go on the offensive. I don't know how they would plan on writing this game, but
I mean, no offense. I will tell you right now, whatever they do, I'm going to be right there waiting for that game. I would love to see this game. And depending on where they go with it, honestly, I think if they've already made two great games like this, It would depend on how they do it, but I'm gonna tell you, as long as it makes the story sense and everything else, I don't see.
I mean, it really depends on Atreus and what his whatever saga they plan on writing for him. Because if he's sitting on a journey and it's in that Egyptian realm,
I mean, it could be something else. Maybe he goes Celtic. No.
but like I said, I mean, it's not like somebody like Kratos who has if he is still on a quest to find remaining giants and they're somewhere within that Egyptian realm, like he's not like the Punisher, like he's not just gonna be like, okay, well, I see them there, but I'm good.
No, I mean, I get it.
He's gonna decimate them and then he's gonna piss them off and then
that's just gonna be a whole nother game.
Yeah.
No, that's the whole point of the game. Just keep pissing them off. It's all great. Anyway, so the one thing about really God of War in general is that, yes, it's known for its fluid combat system, combining melee attacks, magic, quick time events, and then the puzzle solving. Like I said, the puzzle solving is kind of like, it's not the main focus because a lot of it's really the opened kind of concept and, that really kind of fluid combat system. I mean, so like the earlier games, like I said, it was like you could definitely do the combat system, like the different combos, things like that. But it really kind of wasn't open world to a sense. Like the newer stuff is definitely like an open world experience.
Like semi-open world.
What do you mean? In the new ones?
Like semi. I mean, it's
you can go anywhere you wanted to. You don't have to, like, there is a story, yes, but you could still do other missions and not have to follow the story.
Well, I mean, it's if you're talking open world, it's not quite like,
okay,
like.
I'm not saying it's like Far Cry.
You're a Far Cry or your Grand Theft Auto. Like,
well, I mean, okay, I know what you're saying. I guess what I am trying to say though is that it is still open world to basically the point is like if you wanted to go to any of the 9 realms, depending on where you were at, you could, like, if you wanted to finish the story, you go right ahead, or you could go back and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go visit, I don't know, 9 or Niflheim or whatever. Then you go explore it, and then you go do those things.
And that's what they call semi. That's like, I mean, yes, and I am playing Hogwarts Legacy. That's semi-open world.
At first.
It's not. Hold
on. At first.
It's still semi because it's not open world because I can't just leave Hogwarts to go to, say, Hogsmeade.
Well, hold on. Again, you have to follow the story at first, but then once you get to a point, it is open world.
But I can't just leave. I have to leave, and then it loads another screen.
Well, I understand what you're about to say with this, but yes.
With Grand Theft Auto, the whole map was open, and that's what is considered an open world because I can travel from one end of the map to the other without loading.
Okay, I get what you're saying by that, but yes, I understand, yes, the semi-ness. But in the realm of open world aspects, yes, you can still go explore and do other things without having to do the main story of that game.
As opposed to the earlier games where it was
you
loaded into a map and you had to follow said map until the end of the map.
Correct. Yes. And there was no other choice. But yes. And then so yes, the original game, yes, you'd have the Blades of Chaos. So yes, it was the chain-like weapon, perfect for sweeping attacks. And then in 2018 they did the Leviathan X, which is now Kratos' like, I guess, baby. It was basically his other toy that he plays with. But he does eventually get the Blades of Chaos back because he actually has to, because he realizes that the axe isn't just going to do him justice. He needs to use the blades again, even though he doesn't want to. He needs to in order to, basically defeat his enemies at this point. And he's like, well, I got to do this too. And then, but he also, when later on in the games, you do actually get to have, I think it's 2 other weapons. There's a spear and or maybe it's just a spear. I think it's just a spear. Never mind. You basically get another weapon down the road too. And then actually you get a shield. My bad. I guess that would be your other weapon if you want to say it. But so this one you get more weapons instead of the first few games where it's literally just the Blades of Chaos. There's nothing else. But it's nice where those 4 weapons, you kind of get a little bit personalization. You can get more skins for it. there's more things you can do with it, right? And
Right.
you don't have to just stick to that one thing. And then, really with the 2018, that really emphasized the RPG elements, gear upgrades, and then yes, we've already talked about the semi-open world, but like this time, especially with like the gear upgrades, yes, it is important that yes, you need to update your gear, you need to update all the stuff, because if not, the later on in games like you go, you're going to get your ass beat real quick. I'm telling you, because you got to keep upgrading as much as you can. Yes.
So the
next part, this is the part I've been wanting to talk about. Is the whole,
So I know the 2018 version was a lot different than the original one. And I can tell you, I've only played the 2018 one. I think a little bit. I think I've only played,
well, like I said, I played the whole thing. I played all the way through.
But I do think it's cool, like the one shot, camera technique that they used in that game.
They basically do the same thing in the second game too. So there's no difference in that.
It's basically like the entire game is like just one single, like uninterrupted like take. There's no loading screens, no cuts, no nothing.
Yeah, it's literally just a movie. You're almost watching a movie. And that was the cool part about these games, because you could be in the middle of doing something and all of a sudden just like it goes into that like cinematic feel, and you're watching it and you're you're kind of doing the same things, but like it's fluid. You know what I mean?
So like,
it's not just
most games, like when you're playing it and you get to a certain point, like you'll get to a loading screen and then like it'll play like a montage clip, and then.
Or sometimes what I've seen is like, you do a certain action and then all of a sudden it almost does like a black screen or does like something really quick and then like goes right into the clip of whatever you're about to do.
Yeah.
So this one's just very fluid. It just kind of
as soon as you get into, and I did notice this when I played the little bit of it I played, like when you get into a certain area, like it'll almost be like the camera kind of like pans out.
Yep.
And then you kind of see more, and then there's like the dialogue that you see, and then it'll pan back into your normal camera, and then you'll just be walking around again. And
no, I mean, but it was cool that they did that, because like and this is where I was going to say like the camera angles and stuff. I'm not saying the original games or whatever, like they just didn't. It really didn't do it any good for me, because like especially when you're playing, it kind of like you only get so much of a view in the original games. And then all of a sudden it kind of like does like it's more the opposite, where it's like it just widens everything out, and and then you see the dialogue of.
So yeah, the earlier games, and it's funny because like they used a fixed camera, which when I played the earlier games,
I hated it.
I wasn't a huge fan, because like it was like the camera never moved.
Correct.
It stayed in one place, meaning when you ran through the map. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the camera that moved, it was the map that moved.
Yes.
So when you ran through, there were parts that you could not see yourself.
Right. Exactly.
And if there were enemies in front of you, you could not see yourself or what you were doing, or if they were hitting you or whatever. But that was the thing. Like it did offer kind of neat angles. I mean, I would say that, like,
to a degree,
the way that the map moved and the way like that you could see it. I mean, I could say it was stylish in a way.
In a way.
In a way. But it did make combat a lot harder.
Well, that's what I mean. So like if you just looked at it as like a visual aspect, I thought it would have been a great idea. If you're trying to play the game, playing it with combat and shit,
right? It's
terrible. It is absolutely the most annoyingest thing that you could ever do.
So the guy that created God of War basically had said, if you hate cinematic cameras, you're gonna hate God of War.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he said about the fixed cinematic camera.
Yeah.
Early development, they did briefly toy with the first person perspective.
They should have figured that out.
And then ultimately, like, the third person was chosen after seeing, I guess, Devil May Cry.
Oh my God! Really? Okay.
Which I guess allowed more emotional storytelling and dynamic combat.
Wait, hold on. But at least their screen when you play it, you actually saw the fucking character.
Right.
You didn't not gonna see him, and then he goes off into the blue, and you're like, oh, I don't know where I'm at, and there's an enemy, but he's killing me somehow. I don't know.
I know. I can't see him, but the modern era, which is 2018 plus, the fixed cam was replaced with a freely controlled over the shoulder camera, which is what we're normally used to seeing in games.
Yes, and that is much better. It
pulled players closer to Kratos and his journey. So that is kind of the breakdown of evolution of the camera.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I understand that he's like, oh, well, you're going to hate God of War. Yeah, well, maybe if you fixed the goddamn game and made it easier for combat, then that would have been fine.
I mean, I could say it was stylish for if you're looking at it in that way. Visually. Like, it was very visually stylish, but like from a combat perspective, like when you're trying to play it and you're trying to just play, like there are certain parts, like when you're trying to walk like up things or down things and the map is like turning, you start walking up and then the map turns and then you start walking down and you're like, what the hell? It's because like you have to like, you're holding the thing up because you're going up and then the map turns and now you have to go down.
Yeah. So you're constantly changing your fucking motion and you're like, can you pick a side and just stick with it? So yeah, it's kind of moving forward here, but the voice acting, right? So like I said, Terrence C. Carson, yes, I mentioned already, he was the one that originally started with Kratos. He ended it in 2013. Yes, unfortunately, they fired him. And then a few years later, Christopher Judge, the guy we know now as
Boy.
So yes, it is true that yes, that boy, thing right there. So it became an instant meme, but also captured the emotional, distant, stoic father figure Kratos was becoming. And this is where I told Matt a long time ago. I said, this is what I wanted to do with wine. I'd be like, boy, here, no. Just say 3 words and they'd be like, all right, cool.
Come here, boy.
So yeah, no, I mean,
what I found interesting though is that he also did Black Panther / T'Challa in Marvel Avengers.
I did not know that. No.
And he also did many voices for World of Warcraft.
I'm probably not surprised on that one.
And then, if you know Christopher Judge, he in the late '90s, early 2000s. He was in Stargate SG-1.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah,
look at that.
That's a good show.
But yes, the critical commercial success. Yes, God of War 2018 earned multiple Game of the Year awards and is often cited as one of the greatest games of all time, which, like I said, this version of God of War, I'm not saying, and I'm not discrediting the very early on of God of War. These sets of games have really pushed the limit when it came to the franchise itself. Because, like, again, as of 2023, the franchise has sold over 51 million copies globally. Right. So now, granted, I mean, if we're going to talk about like GTA 5, it's nowhere close to that. But at least for a game, though, I mean, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But God of War Ragnarok continued the momentum with enhanced combat, storytelling, and emotional, stakes. So the thing about like so far is, God of War has made, at least with these 2 games, like very, you're talking about a guy who's literally filled with rage all the time. And he, now he has to take a step back. He's being a father a second time, mind you, because the first time, unfortunately, he was too young. Well, I wouldn't say too young, but he wasn't that smart in a lot of ways. And he had to learn from his mistakes. And so clearly he now has a second chance. He's a lot older now, right? So he's a lot more stoic. And that's why, him taking that kind of step back and he's trying to teach his son to be a warrior, but also do other things. So it was just that emotional piece to these games that I was like, wow, like this is nice. Like you don't see that in too many games, I would say nowadays. God of War really kind of enhanced that a little bit more. The cultural impact. So the influence, the action adventure, genre, inspiring titles with emotional depth and cinematic presentation. It's more than just blood and blades. It's become a benchmark for storytelling in games. And I agree because it's like you see God of War, you see like we've talked about Last of Us. Like those are great storytelling games. Like those are games that you'd want to, play and do. Now, like I said, I know you don't like too much of like Uncharted, but that was another great storytelling game where like, you see those games and you're like, wow, like I see the story and I'm like, I'm involved now, and I want to know more about this character, and you want to know what's going to happen, and so on and so forth. Like that's the kind of story that you're like, damn, that grabs you, and you're like, come on in, and it hurts you every time because you're like, God damn it, Billy, why did you do that? And you get too involved sometimes, but like those are the kinds of games you want to play.
If you think of like, I mean, even like The Last of Us, you look at The Last of Us, you look at, I mean, I don't know if Elden Ring has sold that many games yet, but I mean, you look at, games like Elden Ring, The Last of Us, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, even some of the other Assassin's Creed games.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a game that's like the gameplay, the aesthetics, the storytelling, like that game inspired a lot of these other games. Like without God of War being what it is, like we may not have a Last of Us or some of these Assassin's Creed games.
Well, I mean, Assassin's Creed came out, I want to say, I think slightly after the original God of War came out. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know Assassin's Creed came out pretty early on around that time. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's definitely some games that have kind of taken that same inspiration and kind of taken that same thing where without this you never would have gotten where you are now, right? So where the hell are we at?
So I mean,
oranges. Yes.
I'll talk about that. So the creator of God of War, initially he was inspired by a Capcom game called Onimusha, which is basically a hack. It's a samurai hack and slash.
Okay, because I was like, who the hell is Onimusha?
It's very similar but different. It's a samurai hack and slash. It's an action adventure. It's
sounds like Ghost of Tsushima, but like more, probably less graphics like that. But yeah,
it's very much like the similar types of graphics, but it's basically like combos and same thing. But he was inspired by that game, and he basically was like, "Hey, let's do that, but with Greek mythology." That's exactly kind of what he was saying. He also cited the 1981 film Clash of the Titans.
Oh boy.
And Heavy Metal Magazine as influences for God of War. He wanted to combine myth, sex, violence, and I think that was supposed to be heavy metal themes with exaggerated adult storytelling. So the team took artistic liberties with myths, picking the coolest bits and remixing them into something uniquely God of War.
Okay. I mean, I can definitely see that. Especially in the beginning, like I would say in the first few games, that I could see definitely, especially with the whole heavy metal kind of vibe and that kind of stuff. And now I don't see that heavy metal vibe at all. It's like that is not.
No, I think they probably dived more into like the mythology and.
Oh, the second. So I would say now, like especially with these games, definitely more mythology based.
Yeah,
definitely like diving into that. Before we get going, Wheel of Chaos.
Oh, so here we go.
Wheel of Chaos.
Yeah, that's right. I'm calling you out, Matt.
All right, so we got to spin the wheel.
And if you don't know, we have to basically choose which character, hopefully, Matt's going to start speaking as for the next, minute or so? And what does it land on? What do we got? And son of a bitch.
Patrick Star.
Oh, boy. Okay, buddy, now you get to start saying everything in Patrick Star. Go.
For a time frame. Not forever.
Yes, for a time frame. So I figure, go ahead, keep talking since we're talking about, we already talked about the camera angles and stuff. So, I mean,
what's it all about?
Sure, why don't we do what's it all about?
The franchise explores revenge, fate, family, and redemption through the lens of mythology. SpongeBob
What
is the Greek era An instrument?
No, Patrick. Greek. I was trying. I was trying, but I couldn't get it. No, unfortunately, Patrick, it's not.
That's a terrible SpongeBob.
I wasn't going to be SpongeBob. I don't have to be anything right now. You get to be Patrick. So, but yeah, the Kratos, rage fuel weapons when it came to Greek era. Norse is, again, we've talked about it before, but self-reflection, legacy, fatherhood, and the cycle of violence. Kind of learning from his mistakes.
The cycle of violence?
I'm Dirty Dan.
No, I'm Dirty Dan.
No, you're Pinhead. Anyway, if you want to be done, you can be done. It's fine. See, at least I'm giving you a reprieve.
Oh, okay.
For now.
Well, since we're going into the main characters now.
He's like,
it'll be my turn.
Oh, is it your turn?
Go.
Okay, great. Can't wait.
Wheel of chaos.
Wheel.
All right, you ready?
No, I'm not ready. Because I'm going to get somebody stupid. Because I really hope.
All right, now you got to read the main characters.
Great.
Let's see who we got.
Please.
Uh-oh.
What's this?
British accent.
Bloody hell. I don't.
British accent. Come on. You can do a British accent.
I guess. No, because every time I always think of British, I always think of like Australian, and then it gets mixed up for some stupid reason. Oh, blimey. Okay, we got, Kratos here and, the Spartan warrior, turned God. Now, see, why am I sounding like I'm a fucking JFK here? I don't know why I just said that. Jeez. I don't know where to go, Matt, because I'm trying to think of something to hear. Oh, blimey. Kratos, Spartan warrior. See, but it does not sound like Australian.
No, it sounds like you're turning into JFK again.
See, that's my point. I can't. At least I could have had a Boston accent, and then I could have easily said that. That was easy.
It was close. It was right next to it.
God damn it. Anyways, I'm just going to start sounding like JFK. I don't care. You know what?
Just go for it.
That's fine.
Just go for it.
Defined by the lost and the violence of the Greek era, wisdom and restraint in Norse era. And then we got Atreus, a.k.a. Loki. Blimey. Bloody hell. The son of Kratos, mate. And the giantess, that's who it was, Faye. Intelligent, curious, and powerful in his own right. His journey intertwines with prophecy and the fate of the realms. I guess that's a little bit better. Revealed in God of War 2018. Toward the end of the game, Kratos and Atreus reach Jotunheim and discover murals left by the giants. These murals reveal several truths. Atreus' mother, Faye, was actually a giant named Laufey, or the Laufey the Just. In Norse mythology, Laufey is Loki's mother. Look, man, I can't keep doing this anymore. I go from one to the other, and it's terrible. It's absolutely atrocious. I would have rather listened to you than have me do this shit. I wish I had the Bostonian accent. That would have been the easiest one to do. Anyways. So, yes.
I mean, at least Patrick was a little bit easier.
Well, of course that's fucking easy. Anyone could do that one. Shit. Anyways, so with Loki's mother being Laufey, right? So which connects the dots. Since Kratos is Atreus' father, that makes Atreus Loki. So Atreus is the Norse version of Loki, but the name was given to him by Faye, while Kratos didn't know his son's mythology name until the end of the game, which is, yes, that is true. Faye, Kratos' wife, a mysterious and pivotal figure whose past shapes the events of the Norse saga. Other key characters, Ares, Zeus, Athena, Balder, Freya, Thor, Odin, and much more, each reimagined in the series' mythic style. So it's crazy, though, when you start to look at all the characters. Like, you kind of get to see Ares, a little bit of Zeus, a little bit of Athena, Not too much though. I mean, because really, again, it's really focusing on the whole Norse, side of the house. So like Freya, Balder. You see a little bit of Thor. You even see Thor's sons that are also in there too. And then you don't actually see Odin until the second game. You actually don't even get to see Thor until the beginning of the second game. But like a few other things, it's just again, the way they did it, it was just great. But anyways, yes, we've already talked about the main titles and some of the other spinoffs and stuff. Some of the collections though. God of War collection. You had the 2009 PS3 version. You had the Origins collection, that showed the PSP games remastered for PS3. The God of War Saga, which was basically all of them, including the PSP, if I'm not mistaken. And then God of War 3 remastered, which yes was on PS4. But like I said, all the other games, I mean, there is a lot of games, but at the same time, unless you really want to sit there and play, you could probably play all 4 of those games, right? I believe right now on PS Plus, if you actually have that membership that allows you to do it. I'm pretty sure they're all on there. If not, then you can always look this shit up. I mean, you can always figure out the story behind it too. But
I think Ragnarok is at least on Plus.
Well, I know God of War, the 2018 version is. I know it is on Plus.
I think Ragnarok was too.
It might have been, but I want to say God of War 3 was definitely on Plus. I don't know about 2 or 1. I think God of War Ascension might be 2, but I don't know if 2 and the very first one was on Plus or not. Well, but anyways, while Mac's looking that up, I mean, I would say as a whole, God of War it's honestly one of my favorite. Like if I had a top 10 list of all time of like franchises or games in general, God of War is up there for me. I've always loved mythology, and I've always loved the kind of the style of play that God of War features. But it's one of those games that you get into it, you dive into it, and it really just shows you a different style of cinematic, as we were talking about. The that combat system. The different styles of how a game like this has really changed so many games that, we love nowadays, where you have Last of Us, Uncharted, all the basically Assassin's Creed, some of those kind of maybe have kind of learned from, kind of this game as well. But go ahead, man, because I know you got some stuff here.
Yeah. So the 2018 Ragnarok and the remastered God of War 3 are all PS Plus included.
So God of War 2, and Ascension aren't out there?
No.
Damn. I would have thought at least Ascension.
No.
I didn't realize the
as
first
far
two.
as the ones that I'm seeing. But these might be just the.
I mean, they're actually, surprisingly enough, they're actually updating a lot of games. There's a lot of PS Plus games now that they're finally putting on there. So
those might also just be the ones that are like PS4, PS5. They might not be in the classics catalog.
Oh, I mean, it could be it could be on the classics. I want to say it might be. But again, that's if you have the premium. Which, do you have premium or do you have extra?
No, I have premium.
Okay, I have premium too, but I didn't know if you had that or not. It might be on the classics, but anyways, no. I mean, if you ever wanted to play these games, I mean, you can go ahead and go for it. I mean, technically, if you were just looking to play kind of just God of War in general, I mean, honestly, I would start with the 2018 and then go with the 2022. If you really want to know more about Kratos as a whole,
I'm actually shocked, but it's only the God of War 3 that's in the game catalog.
What?
The classics catalog.
What?
Yeah.
You would thought wow, that is surprising to me.
That is
the other
surprising.
two would not have been in there. So I think that what they need to do is they need to add them all, especially if it's a franchise like this, right? Like if you have a very franchise like this that you've been wanting, people to play and, kind of get more involved in, you need to have those kinds of games in there. Some of these other games I've looked up, I don't understand half the games that they added from like the old classic games and shit. Like some of them I can agree, and some of them I'm like, what kind of shit are you on? Kind of a deal. Like, why did you put those games in there? But anyways, like I said, me personally, if I was to give the franchise a whole, besides the fixed camera thing, because that's my only complaint, at least for the first games. I would say everything else about it, I would honestly give it, like the whole franchise, I would at least give it an 8.59, like in that ballpark. I can't give it a perfect 10 because, of course, there are something. I mean, it's very hard to find a game that's a perfect 10. But I would definitely give it at least a 9 for sure because it is, to me, one of those franchises that it has a lot and it has done, tremendous on a lot of other things, me personally. Now, I don't know about you. I mean, I understand you only played a little bit here and there, but I mean, from what, if you just, let's just say you did the 2018, maybe you played a little bit of Valhalla. If you were just to base it off, let's say those two games, what would you give that game, rating-wise?
I mean, I don't know if I could give it a number rating because I haven't really played a whole lot of it. But
well, no, but like from what you played,
I think they're okay. Just they're not my style.
I know. Trust me, I've heard all about your style of gameplay.
They're just not my style. Like I said, I'm not like, and I get it. Like the whole game is not like a puzzle, but it's just not my.
Look, I know
not my thing.
Your thing is like we've already talked about Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, things of the nature.
I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind the story. I don't mind like the RPG elements. I don't mind the hack and slashing. Like, and a puzzle thing. Here or there. Like that doesn't bother me at all. I don't know. I just every time I've gone in to try to play God of War, it just for whatever reason it just doesn't super interest me.
No, I mean, and again, but I also know that you are. Well, hold on. I know that you're a big fan of mythology, though.
Yes,
I know you do like that aspect of it. At least I would say this is just me, right? If you were to give, I think maybe not right now, but maybe down the road, if you were to really give it a shot, playing the first one all the way through, and even playing the second one all the way through, and just watching the, learning about the mythology a little bit, but also doing the, listening to the story and the characters and how they're involved and all this other stuff. I think you generally would appreciate what they have done. And I'm saying at least with the story-wise and that cinematic piece of it, because they do a good job. And I think they do a really good job of the storytelling, because the one thing I thought was always cool about even both games is that when you find the murals, I guess you want to call them, but they're like they kind of look like I don't even know what to call it. It's like those two doors they open up and that it shows like a mural, but it's like, I don't know. It could look like a pantry. It could, I don't know. It's like a giant. I think of it as like a pantry, but basically they open it up and it's two giant doors, and it is a mural of of a story that they're talking about. But like Atreus is the only one that apparently can read into these and understand the story, because Kratos is like, what are we talking about here? And like, so it's interesting to see that kind of stuff, and you're looking at it as like, Kratos. I'd say you and Kratos are like hand in hand when it comes to the grumpiness. So I think that's where I think you need to look at. Maybe you got to play it, because then you can think, oh shit, I remind myself of fucking Kratos. That's fucking awesome to me. Boy. Yeah, I'm just saying. Maybe you got to give it a shot next time. Learn from the perspective of Kratos. Just saying. Anyways, I know we've talked a lot about God of War tonight. And, this is just me. And I know Matt's like, I haven't talked really at all this time.
Hey.
You know what? And it's okay, because you know what? There's a lot of times where I'm just like,
you'll get a lot more of me next week.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and hopefully with other topics, yes, I'm trying to chime in more. This is one of those ones that I was surprised that Matt was even like, hey, we're going to talk about it. I'm like, sweet. I was like,
hey, well, you know what? I mean, we haven't really done like, a lot of video games, lately. So I was like, hey, let's do a video game. We're kind of in the sci-fi fantasy mythology quarter that we're that we're kind of in right now. So
Yeah, so this is a perfect game.
It fits right into our theme. So we're kind of doing it. So right now, the next 3 weeks, we're going to be diving into one of our new kind of quarterly series that we're going to be doing. And it's our AI versus Hollywood series. Like I said, these are going to be kind of our quarterly series where we're not just going to go into AI and let it write a concept film or TV show. Like we're basically it's helping us, right? Like it's helping us to develop to see if we can. It's an experiment, right, John? Like it's an experiment to see if we can use AI to develop something that could rival what's coming out of Hollywood, the shit that's coming out.
The shit show of Hollywood, yes.
The shit that is coming out of Hollywood's asshole right now.
Well, so, because before we got to get going here, clearly, because I know we've been talking for a bit now, but Matt and I have always talked about...
We got a little bit of time.
Okay, well, that's good. Then we'll talk for a little bit. So, we've always talked about the blueprint, right? So this is a good opportunity for us when we're talking about this experiment to
create the blueprint.
Create the goddamn blueprint that AI can now help us into the future.
Hope us
into the future now. No, just to help us guide us to hopefully get to a point where we're like, hey, this is great. Like we can use this, and then we can look at, how do we build from here? Like we can give us the blueprint, right? Give us that starting point. Then we can maybe work on it. We can twerk. We can twerk it. We can twerk it. Gotta work it and reverse it. I mean,
work.
Flip it and reverse
it. To the left. Work.
Anyways, no, but we gotta, we're trying to, basically say that, listen.
Yeah, this is it's kind of an experiment. Like we're not just going to AI and be like, hey, write us a hit Hollywood film. I don't know. We're using AI
as a tool.
And we're saying with our imaginations, we want you to help us with the ideas that we are going to give you to, together with our imagination and your AI-ness, to create a concept that we can present on the podcast to see if this is basically if it's just a load of horse shit or if this is an actual good concept.
Because who knows? Maybe if you guys want to help us out, we could send this shit to Hollywood and be like, hey guys, we created some shit.
And so this one, because we're in our sci-fi fantasy, quarter until June. Yeah, this one right. Is going to be a sci-fi TV series. And I do have to say, I think ChatGPT came through on this one.
Okay. I mean, we're going to find out more next week because, I'm looking forward to that, man. Because, at the same time, this is going to be well down the road, but we've been talking about each quarters for different things. So this quarter's sci-fi, the next one will be superheroes, and we'll have something, of course, based on superheroes for next time for, this series. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, who knows? I mean, this could be
we're talking a full concept. So I mean, there's casting. I have a logo.
Oh God, you have a logo. I didn't realize that.
There's a name. There's a concept logo. I mean, there's everything. There's pictures for the aliens. Damn. I mean, there's everything.
God damn.
So
all right then, we
went deep into.
All right then,
the depths of ChatGPT and pulled out everything that we could, and we developed. It's a story. It's a pretty deep story, and I think it's pretty epic.
Okay, so then I guess next week, guys and gals, and everybody else who wants to be called whatever, you're gonna find out the real story.
We're gonna find out,
and you're gonna find out real quick. You're gonna learn today, kind of a deal. So, all right. So, until next time.
We're geeks from the multiverse.